Welcome to the Sideline Report. I'm Marvin Jackson. Washington loses to the Eagles, closing out the season that ended with a nosedive. 7-9, not too good this season in Washington. And here to break it all down are Lou Holder, Donna Hopkins, and Winston Hylton. Hey. Thanks for joining me. And what went wrong against the Eagles, and what went wrong this season, Winston?
Well, you saw the product on the field. What do you think went wrong? It's a variable. It's coaching. It's players. It's it's the whole culture. I mean, it was a season where literally nothing went right. So that's what you got when you ended up against the Eagles on Sunday. It was just nothing went right. You ended up having your fourth-string quarterback. You ended up having 20-something guys go on injured reserve. It was a season where nothing went right. Does that make it okay for people to keep their jobs? Not my call. If it were, probably not.
What about Donna? What would she do there?
All I know is they're not in the playoffs. Once again, they're not in the playoffs. But, I mean, they started off 6-2 when everything was going right, when they didn't have a lot of injuries. But once they lost the quarterback, Alex Smith, it seemed like everybody fell apart. They had injuries across the offensive line for the second straight year. So that tells me what's going on as far as in the training room and everything to get these guys from having so many injuries year after year. I mean, you can't help a broken leg with Alex Smith and Colt McCoy, but you can make some other changes that will be good for this team. They have no speed at wide receiver. Yeah. The running back position finally was set. I mean, that was probably the brightest area. But then you look across a defense that was so strong at one point, they fell apart in the second half, and that I can't understand. And then you let go. Monty Nicholson gets in trouble for fighting, and then you got DJ Swearinger for telling the truth, probably. And, I mean, you had so many dysfunctional things happen to this team in the second half. They don't know how to finish. And what's disturbing to me is for them to end the season with no changes to management or anybody as far as coaching staff. It may come later, but if you're a team wanting to go forward to win and you're trying to assess this team right now, why haven't you been able to assess them quicker than like some other organizations?
You know, Lou, you were in the Eagles locker room after the game.
I'm sorry, you take a mic.
They had 35 guys get injured, right? 25 starters, right? And 10 different cornerbacks, right? So what you see here, that's why I'm so glad we went into the Eagles locker room, because what you see here is the same things happen to all these teams around the NFL, right? But what you saw is the owner, Jeffrey Lurie, making a mistake by giving all that power to Chip Kelly, right? Because they were a mess. They got rid of Jeremy Maclin. They got rid of Deshaun Jackson. They got rid of LaShawn McCoy. The Eagles were a laughing stock, right? What was the difference and why they came all the way up and won the Super Bowl? He mentioned Howie Roseman, and the people were able to assess talent. That's something that the Washington Redskins have not been able to do, is assess talent, because the number of people that the Eagles lost is now like masked because they've had people that have stepped up, right? So you look at the end of the season and how you're not even able to score 1 point against the Eagles. It's the way you lost, too. It's not just the end of the season. We knew that they were ravaged by injuries, and everybody's a built-in excuse for Jay Gruden. How can you go down and losing one quarterback and two? Eagles did. Eagles lost a quarterback, and then another one comes in. You got to have somebody who's assessing talent, right? So at the end of the day, you got to say to yourself, all those people that were injured, how come no one was able to step up, right? How come there was what Donna was talking about, the fractures? How come the media is talking about nothing went right? Because there's been a culture here that if one thing goes wrong, the whole house of cards falls down, right? You can't have that in the NFL, and that's what that team on the other side showed you, that when people get hurt and other people, that's what a championship is all, and it's not just the players. They believe in Doug Peterson. They believe in Howie Roseman. They believe in their owner, right? And that's what you saw. A team that was behind the Redskins
I was just getting ready to say
came
that.
right up. I mean, you don't have to go back
Finish
years
strong.
and years and years. You can look in your own division within the last 3 years and see a team that was worse than you culturally and just move right past you. And how you don't see that, and how you don't address that, and how you let that team come in here with a lot to play for, and you had a lot to play for too, and get shut out.
And as your last two NFC East teams come right in here in Washington and just kill the Redskins.
Yeah, but the Eagles,
Giants and the Eagles.
Yeah, the Eagles started slow in the first beginning of the season. They struggled, like Lou said, with all the injuries. But look how they finished strong towards the end of the season to make it the playoffs. That tells you a little bit about, okay, all I heard after the game was over is 24 injuries this year, 27 last year. Like they said, they had 34 players, and then they still made it.
And that's the league that everybody was gunning for them, giving them their best effort, and they still were able to be there at the end to get into the playoffs. Yeah. So it was a great juxtaposition to see how two franchises that have gone through injuries and how one has handled it and how the other has handled it, and it was a stark contrast.
Right.
The ability to assess talent is one aspect of it. It's also coaching.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You do go into the locker room. I've been into the locker room. Everybody here has been into the Redskins locker room. They all love to play for Jay, but apparently these players are not playing enough for Jay. Yeah. That's the difference
love
between
and respect is two different things.
Absolutely, exactly. That's my point. Yeah. That is exactly my point.
You don't want to be loved. You want to be respected.
You want to be respected
as a coach.
I think they love Jay, but they don't respect Jay as a coach. Therefore, they're not going to play as hard for him because that obviously they're the common denominator there. Everybody has injuries, but Jay Gruden has not been able to coach up his other players in order to step in and the next man up mentality. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been there for the Redskins over the past 2-3 seasons.
All right, well, I respect you guys. I don't know about love yet, but I do respect you. But we're going to take a break right here. We'll return with more Sideline Report after this. Stick around.